Okay, so we're continuing our New Testament series, starting Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. It says, "Now when they departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, 'Rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him.' And he rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, 'Out of Egypt I called my son.'" Imagine if Joseph and Mary were not ones to tap into the Lord's voice. Imagine God coming to you and speaking to you to give you word about his destiny for your life, and you don't hear it. So he just goes and talks to someone else and decides to fulfill that destiny through them. Because remember, God doesn't need us. Just imagine. Let's put it in today's terms. Imagine if you are so distracted with life, you never have quiet time with God, you never set aside time to read, or if you do, it's super rushed. You're not spending time with God alone enough to hear his voice, and you miss what he's trying to tell you because you never gave that time. I'm not saying that God can't fulfill his destiny in you regardless, but I am saying that we have free will. And if you just never take that time out, you just continue on in your life, it is possible that you could go down a different road. I'm not saying that that road is like terrible. I'm just saying you can go down a different road than what God intended for you. But if you are actively spending time with him, then you will hear his voice. Because we do hear God's voice. And if you don't know what we mean by that, I know that's a typical question. Like, what do you mean you hear God's voice? Like, is it audible? Is it? God speaks to all of us differently. Some people, of course, there may be someone else that hears him the same way that I do. But not everyone hears God the exact same way. And for me, I hear God in my spirit. So there are times where sometimes it's just when I'm in my quiet time with him, but honestly, it's typically when I'm like driving and music is off. So I'm already in a place to where I can hear him. And I know that's confusing because I said it's in my spirit. It's not like I'm hearing a voice from someone, but in a way it is, because if your mind is distracted, then your spirit is too. Like, your spirit's not going to receive. There's a disconnect there. If I'm listening to this music, my mind is continuously listening to the music or wondering what's on my phone, and also paying attention to the road. Like, it's distracted. But if you turn that music off and it's just complete silence, all you're doing is just looking at the road, then you can hear his voice. And how do I describe it? It's basically like you get a message, but you know that message is not from you. I think the times where the message is kind of random, like it's not something that you thought up. It's not something that you were already thinking about. It has nothing to do with anything that you were thinking about previously. It's just kind of random. That's when you know, like, oh wow, that was God. And then you can know how he speaks to you in the future, going on from there. But that's a way God speaks to you, through people. So it could be, sometimes it is your friends, your family, or somebody off the street. I know for me personally, God definitely speaks to me through people. And for me, typically it's people I don't know. It's usually people that, like, I'm just in the grocery store and somebody walks up to me and says something that is completely relevant to my life. or something I've either been praying about or not been praying about and been running from, or it's just relevant, you know? And you will know for sure. I'm speaking to Christians right now, but I don't want to leave out those of you who maybe haven't submitted your life to God, but God is calling you. Because God still calls you. He still chases after you. For those of you who are called, he still calls you. He still talks to you. You can ignore it, but he still talks to you. And then for me, sometimes God will speak to me through media. And by media, I mean sometimes it's a song, but not really. Mostly it's movies or videos or things like that. God will speak to me through that. And I think that may have to do with the fact that he created me to be artistic. So that's something that I naturally gravitate towards. That's something that he put inside of me. And I've noticed that he really was using that to speak to me during times where I wasn't spending time with him. And then the ultimate way that God speaks to all of us is through his word. So let's say you're like, oh, I just haven't heard God say anything. Like, why has he been so quiet? Or I've been praying about something and he's still been quiet. Go to the word. Literally, I understand that you may say, like, I don't understand what I should open the Bible up to. Like, what should I read? Pray before and just, I'm telling you what I do. Pray before that he would tell you what to read or speak to you through his word. Find something to read, literally. And the Holy Spirit will work. I'm speaking to Christians. The Holy Spirit will work. And he will speak to you. And I didn't intend to talk about this, but just imagine if Joseph and Mary were not in tune. I mean, it probably would have been some other, it would have had to be some other people. So it is very important as a Christian that you are spending time with God, listening to his voice. It doesn't always have to be, okay, I'm going to go home, I'm going to open my Bible, I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to read, and then I'm going to spend time listening to worship. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. God is supposed to be in your everyday life. So if you're spending time with him, if you're on the road, turn the music off for a second. Just give him your day by giving him parts of it to honor him. That is worship. Give him parts of it to honor him, to say, hey, I still recognize that you're here. That's spending time with God. Naturally, you're going to read some of those times. Naturally, you're going to talk to him some of those times, which is prayer. Naturally, you're going to probably listen to worship music some of those times. But ultimately, you're worshiping God by acknowledging that he is there during all times of your day. That is how you spend time with God. It's also how you worship God. I know that some of you may have been told that worship is just turning on a song or listening to someone sing and then trying to think about God during that time. Like, guys, that's just a form of worship. Worship is how you live your life every day. And if you're putting God in the forefront of that, like, what would God want? It's literally worship. Just like, worship for Satanists, they worship through their lives. They literally worship through their lives. It's the exact same thing, but we're worshiping God through our lives, through our decisions, through the choices that we make. It's the same thing. So I will continue. Hopefully I'll get through Matthew 2 in the next video.